Hey Weirdos, today we're going to be talking about what you shouldn't do as a Christian. Hey Weirdos and first time friends, I'm Shannon Davis, and like I said, we're going to be talking about the things we shouldn't be doing as Christians. Now, I did talk about all the things we should be doing as Christians in episode 2 of the podcast from Romans 12, and I promised that I'd be doing another video talking about the things we shouldn't do because we just didn't have time in that video. So that's this episode. We're going to be talking about the things Romans 12 says we shouldn't do as Christians. And it might feel a little repetitive, but I think sometimes saying the things we shouldn't do puts extra emphasis on the things we should do. So if you haven't watched episode 2 of the podcast, go back, take a listen, or a watch, whichever you want to do. I'll link Romans 12 down in the show notes if you want to take a read through it before we get into it, but we're just going to talk about the actual sentences and phrases of do not, rather than trying to read through the whole thing. So the first thing is do not copy the behaviors of this world, meaning we're supposed to look and act different. If we are actually following Jesus, we are not supposed to look and act and fit in with the way the world operates. It should be obvious to people that we're acting different, and it should be obvious in a way that makes them say, that seems like a better option. I kind of like that way. Maybe I'll go talk to them and figure it out. It's supposed to be attractive the way that we act. So we're not supposed to act and do all the things that this world does. We're not supposed to be self-seeking and try and get stuff for ourselves and selfish and look down on people and all of these other things that we're going to be getting into. We are supposed to be the opposite of that, an upside down kingdom, so to speak. We're supposed to do things the way Jesus did, which is the first is last and the last is first. And that looking good is not the same as having a good heart towards God and all of those kinds of things. We're supposed to prioritize others, and we're supposed to not look out for ourselves, and we're supposed to not look at outward appearance and all the things that we get caught up in as humans. We're not supposed to do that. So don't let culture influence you. Make sure that you're centering yourself in the Bible, what God says we should be doing first and foremost. The next thing we're not supposed to do, curse people, especially those who are persecuting you. And I think we can start with the simple things like being angry in traffic and being like, what's going on with you and all of that. We might not think of it as cursing people. Our culture doesn't really do the cursing of people kind of thing, but we curse at people and we treat them poorly because they treated us poorly. And this is just emphasizing like we're not supposed to want bad things for people just because they've done bad things for us, or in a lot of ways in America, made our life a little more inconvenient. I don't know how much we can say we are actually persecuted, but we do act aggressively towards people that have inconvenienced us or maybe acted a little bit negative towards us. We need to make sure that we are acting the opposite way of that. So don't wish ill on people. Don't want worse for people. Don't do any of that stuff just because they've done it a little bit not the way you wanted to. Another thing we're not supposed to do, don't think of yourself better than you actually are. This is a place that we start getting into humility and what is actual humility and all of that kind of stuff. What Paul is driving here is that we should be centering ourselves in God enough to know the reason I am who I am and the reason I'm able to do what I'm doing is because of God and the gifts, skills, talents, abilities, resources that He has given me. It's not because I am so amazing and I've done it all myself. It's because God has given me that. He can take it away too. We saw that in Job. So making sure that we realize that and that we don't think of ourselves better than we are. We don't think that I know more or I'm more important or you should treat me differently because I have or can do certain things. Don't think of yourself as important. Just do what God has asked you to do with what He's given you. And that's all the more you need to worry about. The next one, never be lazy. God wants us to work well at the jobs that we have. We see this in Proverbs, don't be lazy. It continues here in Romans 12 that there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen in this world. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen just for the sake of the gospel and what Jesus has asked us to do. We don't have time to be lazy and to just wait around hoping it gets done or wanting somebody else to do it. We have to play our part. And when everybody is doing their part in the work of the church, the work gets done. So it's not that I need to overwork myself to get it all done. It's that I'm going to do the job that's mine, and everybody else is going to do the job that's theirs. And by doing that, and all of us working effectively, all the work gets done. Now, this unfortunately doesn't happen in the local church. The rule is 80-20. 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work. So not everybody is doing the work that is theirs to do. And people are getting burnt out, and people are dropping out, and people are moving on, and all of that. And that's why a lot of times people show up at church and they don't do anything for 2 years because they did 6 years worth of stuff in one at their last. So don't be lazy. Don't let everybody else do the work while you just enjoy the products. Make sure you are contributing in some way to the work of the community that you are in. The next one is don't be too proud to enjoy the company of ordinary people. So we see this a lot in Christian culture right now. I linked a book a couple episodes ago. I forget which one it is. I'll link it again. But it's on the whole celebrity status thing of churches and Christians and mega churches and all that kind of stuff. And there's definitely come this influence of certain people have more influence, so certain people get more attention and special treatment. And Paul is reminding us that there is no person or situation or position that deserves special treatment. And likewise, we shouldn't avoid people because they don't have those things. And the more that we can just let everybody be who they are and enjoy each other's company, the more Christ-like we are. Treat everybody as who they are first and foremost, which is a child of God. The next one is don't think you know it all. We've all been around those people. I've been one of those people probably, where we just think we know everything, or we know the most at least, and that nobody can tell us anything. And Paul is reminding us that it doesn't matter how long you've been a Christian. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing something. We all have things to learn. And so the important thing here is to remember that we don't know it all. We aren't God. We don't know it all. So make sure that you aren't setting yourself up to be that kind of a person. Just remember, you don't know it all. The next one, pretend to love others. Yeah, I mean, what else do we need to say about that one? But the reality is, we think that pretending to love someone is the same thing as actually loving them. And this is a heart issue. This isn't something that, unless I'm being really honest with people that can hold me accountable, they would never know. I can treat somebody very well and people not know that I absolutely disdain them in my heart. And Paul is reminding us we can't pretend to love people. We are called to actually love the people in front of us. And when we are actually loving them, that is when not only is the betterment of them happening, but the betterment of ourselves. Somebody that I absolutely disdain and I'm acting like I love them, they might go on to the blessings that God has for them and continue on, not knowing any of the disdain that I have for them. They aren't being hurt by that. I am. And so Paul is saying, like, you can't just act like this and hope bad things for them and only pretend to be this way. It's going to hurt you in the long run. So you have to make sure that you're actually trying to love people. Sometimes that's harder than others, but you have to actually try to love them so that your heart changes and your focus on God is not being corrupted by other options and emotions and things of that nature. All right, I'm going to do the last three kind of together because they're kind of similar. So the last three is do not pay back evil for evil, do not take revenge, and do not let evil conquer you. So with these final three sayings, we're seeing that we need to not focus on the bad things in life. We need to not look towards bad actions. We need to make sure that all of the evil of this world is not getting a foothold in who we are and how we act. Revenge is taking justice into your own hands and deciding what somebody deserves. That's not our role. That's probably why Paul goes a little bit more in the next chapter about obeying the government. The government's there to enact justice, and sometimes we get it and sometimes we don't because it's imperfect people in that government, but it's not our job to enact revenge. Our job is to be Christ-like and to love the people in front of us. That's our job. And the more we focus on being more Christ-like, the less of a foothold evil actions and evil thoughts will actually have on us. The more we keep refocusing and re-entering into who God wants us to be, the less we will be entertaining and trying to be more like this world and making decisions like this world and letting evil slowly seep into our everyday decisions. So I hope that helps you just see a little bit more in a different light the things that we are supposed to be trying to get rid of in order to be more of the things we should be. Like I said, episode 2 of the podcast, it's linked below if you want to go check that out and see all the things we should do as Christians. For now, that's all the things we shouldn't do. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss a video here, and we'll see you next time, weirdos.